Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Dive Bible Study. We are so excited that you have joined us this evening. I want to just say, if you have a moment, grab your phone and invite one or two people to join us for tonight's discussion. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and click that share button so we can have as many people as possible joining in tonight's discussion. And before we get started, let's just take a moment to pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for just the opportunity to come together as a community to discuss topics that affect each of us in varying ways. And so, Lord, we just ask that tonight's discussion influence and inspire your people, that it encourages us to go out and do your work and to serve and love others well. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
And now it's time to hear from the best praise team in the land.
Yeah. Zion Ford Washington, I hope you came to worship. Let's do it together. Come on. Say right them on the tablets of your heart. Got a new one for you. I hope you like it. Say right them on the tablets of your heart. Listen at this. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me will forever be fruitful indeed. I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one gets to the Father except that they come through me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let not mercy and truth forsake you. Forsake. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Forsake. Write them on. Hey.
most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And as Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. And the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman.
58 years ago, in 1962, Malcolm X spoke those words. And since then, we've witnessed the rise of Black women in our communities and throughout the world. But the question is, are Black women really better off now than we were back then? Welcome to tonight's dive one more time. We are so glad to have you all here. The focus of tonight's discussion, and again, I want it to be an interactive discussion, is Black women rising, acknowledging our past, maximizing our present, fueling our future. My name is Tanil Daniels, and tonight I have the pleasure of moderating tonight's discussion. I am pleased to have an amazing panel of Black women from our Fort Washington campus, and I would love to introduce them to you all now. As I introduce your name, just wave to the people so they can see you and love on you in the chat box. So first we have Donna Stratford, Erica Boyd, Lorraine McCarthy, and Jan Johnson. And we're just here really to have a conversation. Like I said, I want the women, I want the men out there, anybody who's joining us, if you have an opinion or a question that you want to pose to the group tonight, go ahead and drop it into the chat box. I'm just really excited to hear what our panelists and you all have to share with us tonight. So as we saw in the clip, Malcolm X said that the most disrespected, unprotected, and neglected person in America is the Black woman. So my first question to the panel tonight is, does that statement still hold true in 2021? Anybody want to kick us off?
Okay, I'll go. I would say because now we have a Black vice president, a woman vice president, that I don't think that statement still holds true today, maybe as much as it did back when he said it in 1962. I think that Black women have risen to a point of being respected. However, you know, we're probably not at the point of respect where we could be. But I think that I don't think it really holds true today, in my opinion. Maybe the other panelists may have a different opinion.
Thanks, Donna.
I would say, as an educator, because I worked in a field that was predominantly female, I didn't see so much lack of respect. You know, I think teachers would say as a whole, you know, we deal with lack of respect as far as pay is concerned, but I never felt disrespected in my profession as a teacher. But again, I assume a part of that is because I was in a female-dominated profession.
Yeah, and you all bring up some really good points. So you bring up, you know, wage equality. You bring up, you know, education. So now Black women, according to many studies, are the most educated group in the United States, right? So with that comes a lot of different opportunities as well as challenges. So just some quick facts about kind of well, actually, let me go this way. You know, one of the things that Malcolm X said is that the Black woman is often unneglected and unprotected. So we know that this, I think yesterday was actually the 1-year anniversary, or let me not even say anniversary because it was not a celebration, but of Ahmaud Arbery's death in Georgia. And there's been a lot of conversation around the level of media attention and the level of support that goes behind some of these incidents when it's a Black man versus a Black woman. So we think about Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor. how does that sit with you all? Do you feel like Black women don't get the same level of attention when it comes to issues that are really critical to the entire race? Anybody have a thought on that?
I would say that we don't. I would say that when it comes to our life in particular, we are not looked at and regarded in the same way as maybe our white counterparts are. Even for the care of our family and just our needs and our necessities, I wouldn't say that we're on the same level. I would say that, and like in Breonna Taylor's case, so much was going on in the world at that time that it started to be swept under the rug somewhat. They didn't keep it in the face of the media as they did maybe some of the things that happened to the guys. And I just feel like that there comes a time where you really got to look and see that we're standing on the front lines with everybody else, and that we need to be regarded as such, even as our lives are being taken and just things are happening to us in our life and in our world.
Right. Anybody else want to add to that? Go ahead, Erica.
Yep, I would agree with Lorraine, and I would say there's always a justification for why.
Mhm.
So when no one gives regard to what's happening to us or why we're being neglected or unprotected, there's always a reason why. Well, she had this person in her home, or she had this mail delivered to her house, or you don't have the same education level, when in fact I have more education than some of my counterparts. So there's always
Right.
a justification to why, even if it doesn't make sense. We're always told to sit down and wait, or it's coming, just be quiet. And so,
Mhm.
yes, I would agree. We are still neglected and unprotected.
Or even just be forgiving of the situation.
Mhm.
African Americans are always asked to be forgiving and to be understanding when other people who stand up for their rights get attention and we don't.
Yeah, that's a word. And I might be bringing up a controversial topic. And like I said, I want to hear what people think in the chat as well. But oftentimes we have heard that Black women don't always feel as supported by Black men when these things happen. So, Black women, we go hard in the paint for every cause, whether it's our husband, someone else's son. We just, pour into others as much as we can. And so, what do you all think about how Black men show up for Black women in these types of situations?
I think that part of it is due to part of what Erica said. So as Black women are climbing the ladder, the socioeconomic gap between Black women and Black men causes there to be a disenfranchisement of being that protector over the Black women, because now we're getting into the haves and the haves not. Well, they have it and we don't really have it at our access. So their expectation is, well, we want you all to be there for us, but as far as supporting us, but not so much in them supporting the Black woman and what she's going through at that moment.
And I was thinking also that I feel that as Black women, we probably have different experiences. So
Mhm.
some of us may feel like we're in a place where we're not as protected and we're neglected, by the Black man, because there are some of us that have that experience, but others of us may not have that experience as well. So I wanted to bring that up as I thought about the first question that I answered, is that we all have different experiences. So
Mhm.
maybe some of us still feel that way, as Malcolm X spoke, and some of us may not. But as it comes to the Black man protecting the Black woman, yeah, I feel like we all have different experiences with that. Because I know, speaking with a couple, I know, the wife feels like her husband didn't stand up for her in a situation where she was called out of her name by one of his family members, and it's like he didn't take up for her,
Right.
whereas you may have another Black man in that same situation that would. So I think that it depends on what our experience is.
Experiences, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. We can't create, there's not a broad brush that we can paint,
Mhm.
all Black women or all Black men the same. One of the things that Lorraine just brought up is, how women have been moving up, the ladder in terms of maybe status in the home. They may be the breadwinner in the home and things like that. Do you all feel like this whole concept of being an independent woman has played into that? I think previous generations have taught the millennials and the Gen Zers and even the Gen X's, like, you have to do all the things to be able to take care of yourself. And it's bred this, large group of independent women out there. Do you think that's played a role in how Black men show up for Black women?
Yeah. Like the balance of, okay, so the generation before me, my mother taught me, what I learned from her was, yes, you be the woman, you be successful, you do whatever, but you must allow that man to be a man and to be the leader of your home. The moment you emasculate him and take away his ability to be a man is the moment that the equity balance, the shift is off. Because then you're going to run into a lot of button heads, and it's going to be a lot of misunderstanding because you have taken away from him, in essence, the core of who he is. So you have to allow him to be the man of the home and be the man and be the leader, even though you may be the main breadwinner. What's yours is his, what's his is yours, and you work it in that balance. You cannot get ahead of him, and you can't walk too far behind him. You got to be there to support him, no matter how it turns out.
That's good. Anybody have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel that we could be the cause, because sometimes if we act too independent, then what we're telling the men is that we don't need them.
We don't
So
need
I
them.
can do this and I can do that. So I don't need you to protect me. Whereas we really do, even as women who, have achieved a lot, we still want to be protected. And so, like Lorraine said, it's keeping that balance, because a lot of households now, sometimes the women do make more than the men, but it's not, that I'm up here and you're down here because I make more. Like you said, we're in this thing together. And even though I
Yes.
may be independent, I can do a lot of things by myself, I still want you to be the man. And I think we have to
Yes.
verbalize that, because sometimes our actions will push the men aside, because
Mm-hmm.
he feels like, oh, she has this, but we have to still, verbalize to them that I still like to be protected. I still,
Mm-hmm.
like you to come to my aid. And I think we need to verbalize that more, because our actions a lot of times speak just the
Speak
opposite.
louder. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think as women start to get married later in life, we become a little bit more self-reliant and stubborn in our ways, and maybe that contributes to it a bit as well. So I really love that. We got a comment in the chat about the title of Strong Black Woman being thrown on Black women. I'm sure we've all heard that. Either we've been called it, we've called someone else it. It's always out there, right? Because a lot of times, like I said before, we're shouldering things that are going on in our households, at our jobs, in our communities. It's just, we have this immense pressure on us. And so Kristen on Facebook was basically saying that that strong black woman title ends up backfiring on us, right? And we're going to talk about a discussion around what does that mean for us as women? How does that impact our health? How is that impacting how we're showing up for others? So let's talk a little bit about that. Black women, as it relates to some of the health disparities, in doing my research, we have some of the highest hypertension rates amongst groups. As you all probably have seen on the news recently, the maternal mortality rates for Black women are off the charts. And so let's just talk about healthcare and how we take care of ourselves and how that's going to help us or hurt us from showing up in the world.
Yeah, I think so the title Strong Black Woman for me, I think is one that says, okay, that you can do this and you can do that and you can multitask and you can take on all these things. You work a job, you take care of your home, you're influential in your community, and you try to be, for some, the big mama of the family, so to speak. But then with all of that comes the stress of what all that brings, the worryation over the family, the worryation of continuing to make sure that things function at home, the worryation of what happens with the Black man that's in the home that you may be supporting. Or if you don't have a Black man in the home, being that sole provider for everything. That carries a heavy price tag on your body, mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually. And you really have to find a way to break a balance for all of that. I, at the beginning of last year, when we were all were sent home, worrying about my husband, make how things are gonna go forward. We had just moved into a new home 2 years prior. I'm worrying about how all that's gonna happen, what's gonna happen with his job, instead of one, A, really trusting God, and then two, B, understanding that that there may be things out there that can help us along the way should we fall into any dire straits. But not taking care of me and so busy thinking about everything else and everybody else sent my world in a spiral to where I had a trans ischemic attack and wound up in the hospital. We must take care of ourselves while we're taking care of other people. And sometimes that may mean ahead of other people, because
Amen.
we are known for trying to take on the world and neglecting ourselves. When some things we need to leave to others to learn and work through, while we make sure that we are okay mentally, that we're physically okay, that things are moving forward for us, that we're not falling by the wayside.
Right.
I think that title strong black woman can be detrimental at times because it makes us try to be something that we really aren't and take on things that we really should not take on.
And to piggyback off of that, Black women and women in general internalize what's going on in our day, in our week, in our worlds. And how do we deal with that? For some of us, it's emotional eating. It could come up in, habitual behaviors. And all of those lead to those health disparities. If I'm overweight or if I'm eating an imbalanced meal, that plays on my hormones and my emotions, which then too plays in my weight gain. And then if I'm gaining weight, I'm gaining, high blood pressure, diabetes, all of these other disparities, but I'm still not taking the time to deal with the issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to internalize it and I'm just going to push forward. And I think that also plays a part into why we see our bodies breaking down, our minds breaking down. We don't
Mm-hmm.
take the time to go to therapy. Most of your insurance plans cover it, and we just don't take the time to take that 30 minutes to an hour to sit down and say, today was a bad day.
Right.
Mm.
Instead, we'll find something else or take on another load, to just keep pushing forward. If I'm always moving and always going, I won't have to deal with it. And we don't deal with it.
And
Wow.
that
And
to
I think,
piggyback, I'm sorry, and to
go ahead.
piggyback,
Go ahead,
to
Lorraine.
piggyback off of Erica, we were talking earlier, that all plays into what happens in childbirth. We were talking about the high mortality rate of childbirth in the African American community. Not only are we losing the mother in childbirth, you're losing the children in childbirth. And all of this has to do with how we're taking care of ourselves, our socioeconomic situations, the climate of the world, all of this. If we don't take care of ourselves, we are basically killing our own community.
Mm. So let's talk about, COVID has just added another layer of pressure on women, right? We have to show up as wives, as mothers, as caretakers, as teachers, as housekeepers, all the things. So just talk to me for a second about what each of you have done during this season to take care of you.
Mm.
I will say that I have started to say no.
Mm.
And that's something that I guess friends, family, everyone would say that rarely happened. If you asked me to do something, you could consider it done. And I have had to learn to say no. And I've taken on some things during COVID, but I haven't taken on everything that I've been asked to do. And I'm not going to feel like, oh, for someone to say you're retired or you're home and you can do it, it
Mm.
doesn't mean I want to do
And that's a word.
it.
Just
That's right.
because you can do it doesn't mean you want to do it, doesn't mean you have to do it.
Nope.
So setting boundaries is very, very important. Ms.
Yes.
Donna, what about you? What have you been doing in this season to take care of yourself?
Well, I just make sure that I have a day for myself, as I was just talking about earlier, just taking time for me because, you can be so busy giving out to others, taking walks. When it was nice outside, I took a walk today. So I've just been trying to focus on just having that me time and not always having to, give out. I've been helping out with my grandbaby, but, also being able to take time just to, have a Saturday to just chill and just do what I want to do. So for me, my self-care has been, walking. It has been taking time for myself. And, really for me too, just making sure that I spend time with God, because that also helps to me for my self-care. So that's been what I've been doing.
Great. Thank you. Erica?
So I have been cooking a lot since COVID has happened. And I enjoy cooking, but when everything was normal, I was just out and about doing what I wanted to do. But now I cook. Recently, I have changed the way that I cook. So cooking healthier, balanced meals, and also I'm working out with a personal trainer, just to get myself out the house one and then moving.
Yes. I love that. Lorraine?
Mine has been going for drives. My extroverted personality has been going crazy. So I need self-care and going out for a drive. I've been dressing myself up, making myself COVID glamorous for me in the house. And decorating my home. I have like I said, I've only been in my home for 3 years, and just doing things around the house. You can always find something. I love to decorate. I'm into interior decorating, so changing furniture around, moving pictures around. I just recently went out and bought a couple of pieces from off of a friend of mine who's into art, and just doing things that would help to keep my endorphins up, that keep me, focused on my self-care and my inner happiness and peace.
Yeah, and you have to do that, right? So we always talk about pouring out to others, but you can't be effective giving to others if you are empty yourself. So
Right.
I encourage everyone who is joining us tonight, whether you're a woman or a man, to make sure that you carve out that time. Kristen in the chat said, no is a complete sentence, and you can say it without having to explain yourself.
Hallelujah.
Yes, I love
Yes,
it.
and that is
Hallelujah.
it. We don't have to explain our no's to anyone.
That's right.
If we don't want to do it, we don't have to do it.
Amen.
All right, so now let's talk about what I'm calling the pressure of the climb. So as Black women are, moving up the ranks in their careers, Ms. Donna talked about, Kamala Harris being sworn in as the Vice President of the United States. Let's just take a moment. Tell me actually how you felt when you watched Kamala getting sworn in on that day.
Oh my goodness. It was such an amazing moment. I had tears in my eyes because I didn't ever think I would see that, and so I had tears in my eyes. I videotaped it on my phone. I took pictures. It's like, I'm going to keep this and preserve this because, prayerfully going forward, we'll see more. But, I just wanted to preserve that moment. So for me, it was a moment of joy. It was a moment of excitement. It was a moment of just exhilaration to see someone who looks like me being sworn in the second most powerful office in the country that I live in. So that's how I felt.
Anybody else?
I think I was with Donna. I cried. Being a child born of the 60s, that was just, it was incredible to see an African American president, but to see an African American woman vice president, she to me is the realization of the African American women who were in the women's suffrage movement, who fought for our right for us to vote. I I was beyond ecstatic. And I mean, I was like, if those women were alive today, it would be wow, what an accomplishment. What an accomplishment. And it lets us know that we can accomplish anything if we continue to stay on the front line of the fight. We can't just fold our hands and sit back. I mean, we got to now uplift her, support her, whether we like her policies or not, and just stand with her. I just was floored. I was in tears. I just was beyond, because I'm so invested, I think, in what happens in our country now with seeing the Black Lives Matter movement, the mothers who are out there out there protesting for their children, and to see someone that looks like us in the White House, that is an African American woman, unbelievable, just unbelievable.
I was gonna say also, like Lorraine, to see this happen 100 years after women were given the right to vote, to see that moment, I was very proud. But so much that day made
Yeah.
me proud. Amanda Gorman made me proud. Um,
Yes.
when I saw Barack and
Yes.
Michelle Obama come out, just walk out, uh, that's kind of when my tears started to flow. Also, we have much to be proud of. Not to say there's still not a long way to go, but we definitely have much to be proud of.
Yeah, and even just what it means to all of the little girls that are growing up in this era. I've seen so many pictures of, parents who took pictures of their little girls or even their sons, watching the inauguration and just being in awe of seeing someone who is the same color as them, being up on that stage and taking that oath. So there is just, so much for us to be proud of. And, yes, we can pause and celebrate and acknowledge where we have come from, because yes, I didn't even think that I was going to see that in my lifetime, given the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't win the election.
Right.
I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna, we might see another Black man, but a Black woman, I'm not so sure. And so I was just, elated and just really excited about what it means for Black people in general, but also specifically Black women. So let's just take a moment to talk about how we are being inspired these days, right? So the theme of tonight's dive is really acknowledging our past and maximizing our present and thinking about where we want to go in the future. And so I just wanted to ask you all today, who is someone from your past? It can be someone famous. It could just be someone that who has inspired you. And how have they done that? How have they helped you get to where you are as a Black woman? I will start with Erica.
Sure. So I would actually say my mother. Watching her grow up, there were a lot of times when I didn't understand why she worked so hard, or why she went to work so early and came home so late, or, why she was always stressed out and complaining about work, but never leaving the job. It was just inspiring to see her rise from literally the bottom to the absolute top of her job. It was also her that motivated me and told me, you don't have to wait for anyone to give you anything. You can go and get it. And with me being a first generation college student, she was just like, the world is yours. There is nothing that is going to bar you or that is going to hold you or keep you from doing anything that you want to do. So she definitely inspired me. She's the reason that my faith is so strong, because when I saw her upset and when I saw her down and when I saw her weary, she always went back to her faith. I would wake up to my mother praying. I would go to sleep to my mother praying. Saturday mornings when I didn't want to hear my mother praying, she was praying and blasting her music. But it just instilled, like, when you're going through and you're literally struggling with spiritual warfare, that's how you do it. You go right back to your faith. So.
Yeah, I love that, Erica. Our mothers, our grandmothers, they're praying for us, praying for themselves, praying for the communities. I want everybody who's joining us to just drop a name of a Black woman who has inspired you into the chat. We're going to continue to hear from our panelists, but I also want to know who has inspired you. It could be, like, again, someone famous or, just someone in your life that has really made an impact on you. So now, Ms. Jan, I'm going to ask you, who has inspired you?
Definitely, I've had women in my family and in my circle of influence that really inspired me. But a famous woman that really inspired me early on was Oprah Winfrey, because I was just very impressed when her talk show first came on. Just how she was so articulate and how popular her show was. And you would see white women on television just ranting and raving about wanting to get tickets to this show, um and then to watch how she just rose in the ranks, to own her own production company, to now have her own network.
Mm.
uh, when you look at her philanthropy and her business acumen, I'm just very impressed with how she did a lot of things in her life.
Yeah, Lorraine.
I would say from the side of my family, my mother, and I have an aunt who worked for Pan Am back in the day when there was Pan Am Airlines. Only those of us that are older know about Pan Am Airlines. And she was one of the first Black CEOs in Pan Am. Really encouraged me from the business acumen side. But then my top from famous people was Cicely Tyson. Cicely Tyson as a philanthropist, Cicely Tyson as an activist, Cicely Tyson as just as an actress, gave so much to her community in her performances, the right type of roles that she took on. Jane Pittman is one of my top five. And let me tell you, in that role, she spoke to me as a young woman who wanted to be out there and say, I want to do something in my community that says I'm on the front line of the fight too. And I was a really young girl when that movie came out. So I would say Cicely Tyson is it for me.
Yeah, I love Cicely Tyson. You think about it, she was literally working and walking and living out her
Her
purpose
purpose,
till
yes.
her very last days. And I think
Yes.
that is a lesson for us all. I think sometimes we think we're too old to to walk in our purpose, to even find our purpose, and that's not true. You, as long as you have breath in your body, you can do God's work,
Yes.
for your life. And so that is just amazing. And we definitely want to celebrate her life. Miss Donna.
Okay, I definitely know my mom has inspired me educationally. She inspired me that way. But today I want to talk about my godmother, Frances Holmes, who is not with us any longer. But I met her at 16 when I came into the church, and she took me in as her daughter. And one of the things that she gave me that I didn't get, I know my mom gave me the natural things that I needed, but she gave me a connection that I never experienced. She gave me a nurturing that I hadn't experienced in my own home. And she brought me inside of her home. And she was a mentor to me before I even knew what a mentor was. She showed me how to love my husband. I'm married, happily married 36 years now, because my godmother, under her tutelage, I saw her love her husband. I saw her respect her husband. I saw her have fun with her husband. I saw her date her husband. I saw her connect with her children. I saw her, I saw the family unit because I grew up in a single family home. My mom raised me. So my godmother really inspired me to be the wife and the mother that I am today, and well as being a woman of God, because she was a woman of God as well. And she did it all just by bringing me into her bed. Well, she when I went into her house, she was always inviting me in, so, and we would just watch gospel tapes and she would talk. And, she would talk to me about what was going on, even in her relationship. She would just connect with me. And so I thank God, because I grew up, I didn't realize until I became an adult, but I did have connection issues. But she taught me how to be a connector, because I wasn't naturally a connector. And so I'm thankful for my godmother, Frances Holmes. And one thing that I regret, that I never got a chance, because I didn't know until she passed, that she really had an impact on my life the way that she did. And so, that's why every opportunity I have now to give thanks to her and to give recognition to her, I do that, because I didn't realize the impact that she had on my life. And so I'm grateful for her.
I love that. As we talk about acknowledging our past and how it impacts our present and even our future, I definitely think there is power in connection. There's power in each of our stories and sharing those stories with other women, with other people. I think that's how we learn from one another. We were meant to do life together. And our stories are not just for us. God did not give us our trials and our tribulations and even our victories to keep to ourselves. And so that's one thing that I truly appreciate about Black women, especially. I think, whether it's coming around a table with coffee or, just calling a good girlfriend on the phone, we are always, willing to share and to listen. And I think that is so important as we figure out how we're going to move forward in this life, whether that's, again, how we show up in our house, at our jobs, and even just in the world. So my next question for you all is, if you had one wish for Black women as a racial group, as we think about what the future looks like for us, what would that one wish be? And I want people in the chat to put their one wish for Black women in there as well, and we'll read some of the responses. Anybody want to share?
I would say advocate for yourselves. You know, because the only way you're going to get the things you need and deserve, you know, is to let your voice be heard. So I would say to women and Black women in particular, whether it's in the healthcare, when you walk into that hospital, if you know something is wrong, then you advocate for yourself. If you have to walk into the bank, then you advocate for yourself. You know what you need, you know what you want to do, you know what you want to accomplish. You need to let your voice be heard.
Yeah, and that advocacy is so very important. We were just talking about the African American or the Black woman doctor in Illinois, who she was a physician and came to the hospital with COVID and was trying to advocate for herself over and over and over again, and no one was listening to her, and she ended up dying. So in addition to that advocacy, we also have to change the system. People have to begin to listen to the voices of Black women. Also, when we think about wage equality, there are studies that show for every dollar that a white man makes, a Black woman is only getting 63 cents on that dollar. So we have to be able to advocate for ourselves in the workplace as well. It's really, really important. Lorraine, what would be your one wish for Black women?
Mine is probably a little strange and a little weird. I look at the makeup of the Black family now and the role of Black women in the family as wives and learning how to walk with their spouses. I think that we're losing the big mamas who taught us how to do that. And we are not passing that along to the younger women. So that is causing a breakdown in the family system for African Americans. And I think that if those of us who have had successes or some kind of success, like Miss Donna was talking about her godmother, who can speak to the younger women, guide them by the hand, help them to understand some things about marriage balance. I think that would be great for us as women.
Yeah, that's good. Erica?
I would say my wish would be for African American women to take the leap. I know we talked about us being, the most educated, amongst the population and, the most driven. But then we also talked about reserving some of that, to balance, roles or relationships or structures. But I would offer that we take the leap. We've worked hard. We continue to work hard. We're always in the background. So sometimes we just have to think forward and think for ourselves and just start that business, go to that workshop, attend that seminar, do something to continue to build yourself up, because at the end of the day, no one can support and congratulate you like you will yourself.
Yeah, that's good. Miss Donna?
Yeah, mine kind of fit in a little bit with hers, but I would say just be your authentic self. Have confidence in who you are as a person. You
Confidence.
don't have to try to be like anybody else.
Hmm.
Just be your authentic self. And I think, if we can do that, that would be my wish for Black women. Just be who you are, be comfortable with who you are, be confident in who you are. You don't have to be what somebody else wants you to be or representation of what you think people want you to be. Be your authentic self and be confident in that. So that's my wish.
Yeah, and in the chat, someone says it's okay to spoil yourself and be selfish. You don't have to feel guilty. So just that, the wish of being a little selfish. It's okay. You can prioritize yourself unapologetically, right? You don't. It's okay. I would also say that it's okay to like fully embrace joy and happiness, whatever that looks like to you, because it's different for each and every one of us. And I think, sometimes we allow the outside pressures of the world to hinder our joy, and we don't take full advantage of opportunities to make our own selves happy, to do things that will, again, just fill our cups, so that we can be better women, to the world. Erica, also, you talked about kind of taking the leap. Um, Fear has kept a lot of us in a place where we probably shouldn't have been as long as we have been. So can you all just maybe talk about how your faith has helped you overcome some of the fears that either you've experienced in your own personal lives or in your professional life?
I don't know. I think for me, I in my prayers, I always say to God, I want to do something that I've never done before, and I want to trust you. I just want to jump off the cliff and just do it. And I want to trust that you're going to be there to catch me. And I've done it in my professional life over the years, and I still do it now. And it has been a blessing to me to just do it and not be afraid. Take on something that you don't know and learn it to the best of your ability so that it can help to elevate you in your profession and in your career. Um, we're in the process now in the praise and worship team of learning some engineering techniques, something I thought I would never have to do as a person who's been singing for years. and but I said I'm going to learn it. If I don't do anything else with it but just learn it, I'm going to learn it. And I'm going to learn it to the best of my ability so it can enhance my craft and my ministry. So I think we have to get to a place to where we take that leap of faith, like uh, Erica was talking about, and just jump off the cliff and know that God is going to be there to catch you and trust him to be there with the safety net to say, I got you. No matter what happens, I got you. So that is what's helped me a lot.
I love that. And people, you definitely feel free to put how you've used your faith to overcome your fears in the chat. We would love to share some of your responses as well. Anybody else have an experience where their faith has helped them overcome their fear?
Yeah, I know for me, back in 2014, well, in the beginning of 2014, I was like, at the end of this year, I'm going to leave this job and I was training to be a coach, speaker, and teacher through the John Maxwell organization. And it was my desire just to get out and to become an entrepreneur. And so, I put it in prayer. I felt like, it was the time for me to leave at that time. It was the timing of God. But of course, fear is going to always get in the way. But I just really felt in my spirit that it was time for me to go. And so, with the leap of faith and, getting over my fear, I left at the end of 2014. But what I did not know that the reason why I was being pushed that way is because in 2015, my mom had to come live with me. And had I not left my job, I wouldn't have been in that position to take care of my mom. So, I'm glad that I listened. And even though I thought I was doing one thing, sometimes we feel like, okay, well, I'm taking this one step. I didn't know what the second, third, and fourth step was, but I do believe that God was saying, do this. And I thought I was, I thought I was leaving for one reason, but, I was in a position to be able to take care of my mom. But my faith, had to carry me through that situation. And I felt like times before I left my job to give birth to children. Like when I had my first child, I left my job because I wanted to take care of my first child. And each time I had a child, the last child I had, I left my job to give birth. When I left my job this time, I felt like I was giving birth to my purpose. I felt like I was now I was walking, able to give birth to my purpose and nurture and groom that and grow that up. And so it was a leap of faith, but God sustained me. And the thing about it is that God is so awesome. I left the job that I had been on for 15 years. And after being gone for 3 years, the person that I worked for, he went through three people that worked for him, and then he asked me to come back. And so it was like at the time that it was God made the way. It was a temporary thing. I didn't know. I had to come home, get my mom settled, take care of her, and then he brought me right back around, and I'm on the same job now. So God is just amazing. But it's all a faith walk. It's all a faith walk.
Yes. Anybody else have anything to share?
So for me, when I was in high school, I committed Proverbs 3 and 6 to memory. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he'll direct your paths. And there were times in my life, and especially my early adulthood, where I really had to hold on to that. Like, no, I know how to trust God. I know how to pray. I know how to commit myself to obedience. Like, there's no reason why I have to fear taking the next step. When I went off to college, I was like, oh my goodness, is this the right thing to do? Am I going to the right school? But I had to believe that my steps were already ordered. When I came back home and it was time to start the job search, it's like, did I make the decision by not taking the first job that I was offered? But then I had to remember, he's ordering my steps. When I purchased a home so young and not married, I had to ask myself, what happens if I don't have a job? And then a month later, I lost my job, but I didn't go without. And it was, I have to trust that he's ordered my steps and he's going to sustain. So
Amen.
I've definitely been through enough in my 20s to know that I know, like, I could never doubt God. I've seen him time and time again prove that he's ordering my steps, and all I have to do is trust him.
Amen.
Yeah, that's it, right? So when we talk about Black women rising, we have to be willing to, get uncomfortable, to take the leap, to trust God, right? Even when we can't see what's in front of us, we have to know that He is ordering our steps. And if we trust and rely on Him, we will continue to rise. We're going to continue to rise individually as Black women. And I think that's how we rise collectively as a group, right? So before we close, I just want to get some of your thoughts on how can we as Black women support one another as we climb?
I think we
So
have to be, go ahead.
okay. I think it's important to, one, take someone with you. So always reach back and take someone with you. I know a lot of great moves or great decisions that I have made is because I've had someone else reach back and say, watch me or come with me and let's do this together, and then you'll do it. But I also think it's important to show up for each other. If you see a friend doing something, or if you see a coworker, support them outside of your normal relationships. Because we're taking on, you like you said, stress and fear of branching out to do things on our own. If you see them, and just show your congratulations by showing up, being present, and not just showing up to check the mark, but offering your advice or offering your assistance, or offering your support to say, hey, maybe I don't have it financially, but I'm here to give you guidance. Maybe I can look over a flyer, or maybe I can give you talking points. So show up and then reach back.
I love that. That's good. Anybody else?
I was going to say just about everything that Erica said. You
She
got to
did.
be
She gave a
there.
word.
She crossed all of it. You got to be there. Us that are older, we can't become so settled that we're not reaching to the younger generation. We get settled in, we're set in our ways and in our life, and our life is set. But we got to understand that now the now generation needs us. They need the knowledge that we have. They need our experiences. And we need to share those things with them, even if sometimes they don't want to hear it, because you have that too.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to pour back into the next generation so that they don't repeat the same things, and they understand where we've been so they know where they are going to.
Yeah, and that's it. It's all, at the end of the day, it's all about legacy. We are all living Black history, right? So
Yes.
we have the opportunity to, even if our names never show up in the history books, our names are going to be imprinted on the hearts and the minds of people all across this country. And we have, like I said, the opportunity to do that. Does anybody have any closing thoughts that they want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
No, I just wanted to say though, to that question, as Black women, how we can support one another, is that we have to look at each other. We're sisters. We're not competitors. You're not my enemy.
Right.
We are sisters. And if I look at you as my sister, then I'm going to want to do whatever it takes to make sure that I lift you up. Because when I'm lifting you up, guess where I'm going? I'm going up too. When I'm
Yes.
pulling you down, guess where I'm going? I'm going down too. And so I would just say that, just let's look at each other. Hey, we are in this thing together. Mother Teresa said, you can do what I cannot do, and I can do what you cannot do, but together we can do some great things. And I think
Yes.
that as
Yeah.
Black women, if we just know that we are in this thing together, we will definitely do some great things. So I just want to leave that.
Thank you. All right, well, we are coming to a close. I just want to say thank you to our amazing panelists this evening. Thank you for just sharing your story, sharing your heart, sharing what your thoughts are for Black women moving forward. This is the last dive of February 2021. So we're kind of closing out Black History Month, but the good thing is we are entering into Women's History Month. So the women can keep celebrating for another 31 days or so, because we deserve it, right? We do deserve it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to celebrate you all, celebrate the women who are in the chat. We have to support, bring along, affirm one another. And so when we close, we just want to leave you with this parting message. I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, or evening, I should say, and make sure you check out this closing video, and we will see you next week for Dive.
Hey, Queen.
Hey, Queen.
Hey, Queen. Sister.
Girl, you've done it again.
You are constantly raising the bar for all of us and doing so flawlessly.
You do know that you're that girl, right?
I hope that when you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, you see how divine you are.
Know that so many people want what you got.
You have dreams to fulfill and promises to yourself that you must keep.
I know at times you feel underappreciated and misvalued. Trust me, we've all been there.
So it's necessary that you can count on yourself.
Now, don't go seeking perfection.
Extend yourself a little grace.
Don't be afraid to celebrate the little wins as much as the big ones.
You, Miss Thing, are courageous. You are dynamic. You are principled.
So baby girl, just remember, respect is a minimum.
There's a sweet justice in knowing that the path you are on was designed for you and you alone.
Doing right by yourself never goes out of style.
Everything about you is majestic and a force to be reckoned with.
Trust me, people are paying attention.
You're special and worthy of praise. Don't shy away from it.
And you don't have to get your groove back because guess what? You never lost it.
It's also important to rest. Make sure your hustle doesn't get in the way of your health. Girl, take care of yourself.
And the next time you want to second guess yourself, don't do it.
So pause for a second right now and relax, relate, release.
You are needed, you are appreciated.
Girl, you make me so proud. And I love you.
Remember,
you are 100%
that queen.
Oh, yes.